No matter who you ask, you're going to get the same response.
It's wild. It's pretty fun. Everybody seems to be having a great time, and there's a lot to do for sure.
This was my first time being there, and Nick Harris is a close friend of mine. And he told me to kind of expect a slow boil of a party, which was about the best description possible.
It's one of those things you absolutely have to experience. And people say that about a lot of things, but this really is a thing that there's this visceral feeling that you have to experience to understand what VMD is.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. And it's not just a movie with data from the Goonies, but it's also a pretty great way to describe AMA Vintage Motorcycle Days. A weekend full of, well, vintage motorcycles at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. But it's more than just what it says on the tin. And much like a bad joke, you really had to be there. But we're giving you the next best thing and talking with some folks who experienced Vintage Motorcycle Days, VMD for short, to find out why you've got to get this bike show on your bucket list. This is AMA Vintage Motorcycle Days. I'm your host, Mark Long, and you're listening to Driven to Ride. So what actually, is VMD? Well, let's ask the guy at the top, Rob Dingman, President and CEO of the American Motorcyclists Association.
VMD is the largest fundraiser for the American Motorcycle Heritage Foundation, which is a subsidiary of the AMA that exists to raise money for the Hall of Fame and the museum and to keep the doors open in the museum. So VMD's been around since the 90s, and it started out as I think they called it the Heritage Homecoming. It was something that started. It was one time was in Athens, Ohio. It had been on and around the AMA campus in Westerville, Ohio, I think for a couple of years. There was another event facility that they had not too far from the office. They had it at one year, but except for those first few years, it has been at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course ever since then. It was 35 years or so since the first one, and we missed a year from COVID. So I guess there's been 34 maybe. It is an event that has no peer. There is nothing like VMD anywhere on the planet, as far as I know. It's much bigger today than it was at that point in 2007, the first year I went. And it just, like I said, it just continues to grow. And it's a much different event, I think, today than it was then. I think it was a big event, but it's more of a happening now. And it's one of those things where people who have been, they come back year after year. It's on the calendar. They know when it is and they're coming. And people who can't seem to get there every year, or they live, on the West Coast or whatever, it's become a bucket list item. People are like, I've got to get to Vintage Motorcycle Days because I've heard all about it and I want to experience it for myself. And I would say this year was probably the biggest yet.
And hey, it just so happened that we ran into Fish, a fellow VMD virgin who made the trek across the country.
I drove from the Bay Area of California.
Wow, so you literally went across the country. You camped there, right, overnight?
I had my RV set up in the infield, so honestly, it was quite a privilege, but probably one of the best things that could have happened because I was able to basically have my little escape route when it got a little more than I was ready. I, at this point, consider myself like an old person. So sure. The loud noises and partying, I reach a threshold and then I'm like, okay, cool. Now I'm going to hide in my RV and be quiet. And that opportunity was nice, but I will say there was also parts of the campground that were kind of the same vibe.
Okay, so now that we know what VMD is, what do you get to see there? Well, let's ask this guy.
I'm Zach Farmer, the Washington representative for the American Motorcyclists Association. If you're interested in motorsports on two wheels, it's going on here in some capacity and across generations. So we have all the vintage stuff, and then we have these super sport bikes on the track that are a little more modern. So and in addition to that, I think there's 800 swap meet vendors. There's the campground is just packed full of people. I stopped and talked to some of the Mid-Ohio security facility workers, and they said it's the biggest draw that they have for any event. There's more campers here. There's more people than there are for Indy or anything. It's like the only place where you can see on-track racing, motocross racing, trials, hare scrambles, all in one place.
The most impressive thing to me was that you could find pretty much anything you wanted while you were there. Environment-wise, companionship-wise, there were crowds of people from all walks of motorcycle life. Literally, if you've ever been on anything in two wheels, there's someone there who's got a conversation to have with you about it.
Yeah, at least a couple of people.
Yeah. And like the variety of you got motocross over here, trials, hare scramble, road racing. And like, I call myself a motorcyclist because I don't particularly have like a particular subculture that I latch onto, but my current profession is a Harley mechanic, and I actually specialize in like the evolution era stuff. So like
Okay,
80
yeah.
Ford and 99 is mostly my bread and butter. And I was able to still hang out with the guys at the bagger racing stuff and like have conversations with them about engines. And then like my dirt bike, I have a 71 Triumph 250. And there was someone there with that bike, which is a weird, not particularly great motorcycle that doesn't have any reason to have a cult following.
Yeah, yeah.
Still someone there to have a conversation about. So that was really neat. And never in my life have I been like riding through a paddock at a racetrack and seen mid 70s Husqvarnas and Pentons and Osas, like just being ridden. That was probably the best part, is that they were not all show bikes and polished and pretty. Like
Yeah.
people were out just riding them around, and like that part was really fantastic. A guy that had a pickup truck with a 75 AMF era Harley 250cc, like a dual sport, and I had a full trailer, and so I didn't buy it, but that would have been something that would have been right up my alley. It was a neat looking bike. I definitely enjoyed the event, and I would go back.
We have every discipline of vintage racing. We even have some modern racing there occasionally. This year we had the Talent Cup that was part of the Moto America series. It was a modern class that we had there, but we have vintage racing, off-road trials, motocross, flat track. We run at Ashland Fairgrounds, not too far away from Mid-Ohio Sports Cars, road racing. You name it, we have it there. We have pit bike racing. That is something relatively new that we gave people something to do with their pit bikes because they were going to run around the campgrounds and race each other around barrels anyway. So we thought we'd capitalize on that and give them a safer track to race on.
Yeah.
We also have the world's largest motorcycle swap meet. We have, if you can imagine this, over 850 vendor spaces. Now, that's not 850 vendors because some vendors have multiple spaces, but 850
Sure.
vendor spaces is just a gigantic swap meet. And it continues to grow. The event grows year after year. We try to add new elements or do something a little different each year to get people to come, but it continues to grow to the point where, I'm not sure where we're going to park everybody.
And yeah, that swap meet, it can get overwhelming in like the best way possible.
I was unprepared for the swap meet, is the best way to put it. And in retrospect, I would have liked to have come with a lot more cash in my hand and more room in my trailer. I mean, the scale of the swap meet can't be overstated.
You're right. Yeah.
The fact that I rode through it, I did a lap through on my Trail 90, and like still didn't see enough of it. And then I had to do a walkthrough later,
Mm-hmm.
and then still missed things and went back later and saw more stuff. Like it was effectively a shopping mall for almost any motorcycle, save for like the vintage Harley stuff.
Yeah, it was even overwhelming, like, because you just look at a table and there's just so much. You just kind of have to take a second to parse through it all,
Yeah, no, that was exactly. And like I did sort of the vulture tour on Sunday as guys were loading trucks up, and
Oh, sure.
not just in terms of like deals to be had, but just
Mhm.
the hardware itself. I mean, you can't go to a place and find like, I mean, I did pick up, I have a Trail 90 that I have fallen in love with, and I now believe
Nice.
is probably the best motorcycle that was ever made.
Nice. Yeah.
And I have the auxiliary gas tank on the back, which is cool, but I lost the cap for it at Black Rock Desert.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a gas cap for it at the swap meet. And so I did buy that. And I think I found a set of matching original mirrors for it, which was cool. Like one of my learning to get better at is building spoked wheels. And there was a guy who had crates of Boranis and Acrons and all of the best of the spoked wheels from the 70s that I was swooning over. I didn't buy the boxes, but I almost bought the guy out.
Yeah.
And that art in itself, building spoked wheels, is one of those things that's kind of going away. And it was
Mhm.
cool to see that, like, nope, Not here. Like you can find a spoked wheel for anything, and there's some guy here who knows, the procedure to lace it correctly and everything else. That was one of the coolest things about that. I was sort of looking for a KZ1000 police bike. That would have been something I would have shipped home. And at some point, that's a bucket list bike for me, is like a stock last generation with the fairing. And like, I want one that's not been turned into a cafe bike. Like I just want a stock Kawasaki cop bike.
Yeah.
But I did not find one of those, funny enough. But man, there were like Z1s and Mach 3s and like vintage Kawasaki's that were just, it was really cool because they were not, again, like they were not Meekum auction museum pieces. They were like, you could buy this and ride this. And
yeah,
like for me, it reminded me of like the early 90s and 2000s when you could buy a CB750 for $500, and that was a completely reasonable bike to own.
Yeah, back in the day, you can't really do that much now. I think the only place you can really do that is at like Vintage Days, or if you get really, really lucky. I imagine, did you see any bikes that kind of brought you back to that time too there? I mean, I'm sure there were probably a couple of 404s there or two.
I saw a couple 404s. There was in the swap meet, a couple different of the CB, I think it was the 360 with the high pipe.
Okay, yeah.
And they were, again, like unrestored, but in really good shape. And like, I was like, God, that's another bike that I would love to just have it to ride around and just own as like not a collector piece, but like a fun piece of transportation.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that was what that event reminded me in general, is like all of these things are still fun transportation when we're living in the world of bring a trailer, where suddenly a 91 CRX is a collector's item. Like I remember when that was a car to just be driven and enjoyed.
One thing I was kind of surprised at, I don't know if you noticed this, there weren't a ton of Harleys there, was there?
No, it actually was kind of refreshing, just because it's like we as motorcyclists have all these really distinct subcultures, right? Like you've got, and I joke that every one of these subcultures feels like they are the most important facet of motorcycling, and they are single-handedly keeping the industry alive. Actually, that was one of the things at VMD that was really neat, is that you have a bunch of subcultures and everyone's hanging out, except, I mean, to your point, it was kind of a bummer that the Harley crowd wasn't in there as much force as they could be, but there will always be that sort of metric versus Harley barrier that's not everyone wants to cross, I guess.
So we've got national championship racing, the largest motorcycle swap meet in North America, and vintage bikes of every flavor all over the place. And at the proverbial top of the event, this year's Grand Marshal, an AMA Motorcycle Hall of Famer and 1982's 500cc motocross world champion.
Brad Lackey was our Grand Marshal, and he was an extremely popular rider, and so he drew the crowds for sure, and we really put him to work. We got him to just about every element of VMD, where he went and either got to participate or got to interact with people. He signed tons of autographs. We always have autograph sessions for our Grand Marshals, and he was great. He just did whatever we asked of him. That's it's always a tough job, again, because I think when people are asked to be Grand Marshal, they might not have any idea what they're getting themselves into, and then they get there and say, "Oh my God, I got to do all this work."
And dragged around, yeah,
be dragged around. But he was great, and like I said, he was just such a popular rider when he raced. It was great to have him there.
Yeah, and seeing some of those historical motorcycles in the Hall of Fame tent was super cool. They very clean motorcycles to look at.
Yeah, we've got a group of collectors that we can go to that depending upon who our Grand Marshal is or what other activity we've got going on. If there's a special anniversary, we tend to try to find those rare bikes that are just in beautiful shape for people to come enjoy.
And as it turns out, Fish has a connection to Brad Lackey.
I was charged with bringing Brad Lackey's championship motorcycles from 69 through 83. So he had some really incredible bikes. He had called an American Eagle, which I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
It was a 401cc two-stroke single that I guess was a British engine and an American frame. It was one of his old race bikes, so that came with me. His 78 Husqvarna 360, which was also just beautifully restored.
Yeah.
And his as raced RM 500 motocross bike, RM or RN. Someone's gonna skewer me for not knowing the correct designation, and that's fine.
That's okay. One letter's okay.
It was his factory works bike, and it was as raced, and Simmons inverted forks and really cool full floater monoshock, and the thing had just like an 83 motocross bike, which by today's standards has terrible brakes, and it was an air cooled 500, but like somehow cutting edge technology at the same time. Cool bike, and it was
Yeah.
neat that I got to be in charge of all those things, getting him out there and getting him home.
Did you get to spend a lot of time with Brad?
He was pretty busy, so not as much as I wanted. I know his son, Logan,
Okay.
who is a very talented Harley stunt rider. He rides with the Unknown Industries guys, and like Monster Energy flies him legitimately all over the world to do wheelies on giant Harleys in parking lots.
Awesome. That's not a bad gig.
No, the apple does not fall far from the tree when it comes to riding skill.
Yeah, seriously. I've heard that from a couple of people. I'm starting to think it's hereditary.
I mean, there's that whole like, you get into motorcycles and like, I mean, my father got into Harleys in his 20s / early 30s. The folklore is a bit blurry.
Sure.
He made sure I had my first motorcycle at 6.
I know from personal experience that riding motorcycles can bridge generational gaps. And at VMD, you can see that generational bridge happening in real time. What's cool about it around here, there's a lot of kids, it seems like, and there is a lot of like youth interest in motorcycles. I'm sure you hear it all the time, like, oh, like motorcycling is only like for an older generation. Kids don't want to ride motorcycles. Younger people don't want to ride motorcycles. But you kind of see it here, right?
Yeah, there's a ton of kids around riding their, two-stroke oil and smoke in the air everywhere, ripping around. We saw a kid yesterday with just the most bent front wheel on his dirt bike.
I saw that guy too, yeah. And it was for sale too on top of it.
Just no fear, just sitting here like, man, and that reminds me of me when I was a kid, and that's the way I grew up. So it's good to see that there's still kids out there who want to do it. And it's one of those things in DC too. You don't think about it, but some of these policies that are going to raise the cost of manufacturing for motorcycles, raise the barrier of entry.
Right.
I remember when my first motorcycle that I bought with my money was a $1,000 Yamaha TTR 125.
Yeah.
You're hard pressed to walk around the swap meet. Again, it's a premium here, but you're hard pressed to find a $1,000 dirt bike in any good condition here. Mm-hmm. And you're just thinking, it's just kind of the way the world works. Things are a little bit more expensive, but if you can't go out there and buy that, $5,000 Rebel brand new with a warranty, then younger generations are going to be less inclined to take up the hobby.
Vintage racing, but vintage motorcycles in general have kind of had a bit of a resurgence. People enjoy riding older stuff. It's a different experience. It reminds you of when you started to ride. It reminds you of a lot of things. There's something to be said for all the latest technology, but it's also kind of cool to get back on that, analog version of a bike that, it just doesn't have all the technology that modern bikes have. It's just, it's cool. It's, and people, I think, are drawn to that. And that's why I think vintage motorcycling has become more and more popular, which is another reason VMD has become more popular. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the technology part. So I have my daily ride is a 2019 Yamaha XSR 900. It's got ABS, got traction control.
Yep.
But the thing I've noticed the most that I like, the biggest difference between riding that and the old Honda is the clock. Like if I don't know what time it is, I just don't think about it. Like I know I have to maybe if I'm commuting, I know I have to get somewhere. But if I'm just out for a ride, I'm not paying attention to what time it is on the old bike, because I can't really look at it, So that's the biggest difference to me. I think, that you're much more plugged in to the ride that way.
Yeah. You feel more part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. There were a lot of people who were just riding a motorcycle to ride. Mm-hmm. Did you see the unsanctioned mini bike track?
Oh wait, was it like kind of a there and back thing off the grass, kind of by the motocross track?
Yeah, it was across from the other side of the road from the motocross track.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
That thing, that almost says it all, because like if you sat and watched that, there were kids on TTRs and adults on everything, quads, scooters, mopeds.
Yeah.
Trail 90s. I'm going to really expose myself. I didn't even know that the Honda ST90 existed before this event. And after seeing an ST90, I am also in love with those.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even count the amount of motorcycles I saw. It's like I've never heard of that model before, or probably never even heard of that like manufacturer before. There were a couple of, I think there was like Eastern European bikes, Polish bike, a Zendap, or I think it might be German. I can't. It's
Zundap, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's German. But it was getting to the edges of my motorcycle knowledge, which is not a lot compared to some people. So it was cool to see some unique stuff.
Yeah, I was only vaguely aware that Rickman existed, and I
Okay.
really still have no basis for what a Rickman is or what their claim to fame was.
Yeah.
But there was a Rickman frame with a CZ engine in it running around there.
So with everything going on at Vintage Motorcycle Days, it's hard to pick a favorite part, but you can find some truly special moments amid all the chaos, or just sit back and enjoy what you see in the chaos itself. After kind of everything closed down and it was kind of after hours, I'm guessing it just got more wild at night as the night went on. I know you didn't stay up till sunrise or anything, but I'm sure you saw some pretty cool stuff.
I mean, the aforementioned unsanctioned mini bike track was a bit more active. And so hats off to the AMA for like having people at the track who were semi flagging traffic as intersection runners during the day.
Yeah.
When those guys went away, that main paved strip, I'm not going to call it a racetrack, but there wasn't really much speed enforcement, yet somehow no one, it was crazy because things got faster, things got louder. There was, more people. There were a lot more two strokes that were on the pipe running back and forth. There were there were fireworks. There were festivities. Let's call them festivities. But it was that slow boil where you're like, wow, this is right on the edge of like one more notch and we're talking life flight territory. But and it would start to elevate and then it would just roll off. And then it would elevate and roll off. And rode that wave over and over, which was really impressive.
Is there something that, whether it's this year or last year, just your two experiences here that has surprised you, or something that you didn't think that you would see that's super cool here about VMD?
I would say at the first year, everything's sort of a surprise. You don't know what to expect when you get here. But this year, so I guess the first year we had sort of a little bit of agenda, a little bit of a more structured agenda. I was newer to the AMA, and this year I've had a little bit more free time to see the vintage motocross, the off-road, the guys who are out there on ripping around on pit bikes, just the community around that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that there's, old stuff is cool and there's a lot of old stuff, but you wouldn't think there's so many people who care about that, the older stuff, and they keep it running and they've kept it original. And some of these bikes are just incredible to look at. And, they're slogging these just heavy bikes through the mud, racing them. And these guys are really invested in it. And that was really interesting to see this time, I think, that I didn't get to see the first time I was here. And it, again, like I said, it just, you think about how policymaking impacts those people's lives. They need access to parts. They need to be able to repair things. That's very important for independent people like motorcyclists.
Yeah.
And it's something that regulators and legislators are trying to kind of put more of a in the interest of safety, let's maybe not allow people to work on their things quite as much. But when you see the culture in the community alive of people who are real DIYers and are interested in preserving and riding those machines, it really makes you realize the importance. The AMA has been around for 100 years, and since the 70s, they've had some type of government relations role, and then we've had an office in Washington, D.C., staffed full-time since the 1990s. We are rights riding racing. If you see any AMA-branded things, rights are always first, because it is a little cliche, but it's really important to defend the rights, and if no one's there to stand up or speak up or monitor, they just disappear quickly. It goes for motorcycling and lots of other things. So we are fortunate in Congress to have the Congressional Motorcycle Caucus. It's 35 members, most of who ride, so they have an interest in motorcycling. And so when I started with the AMA, they hadn't done anything really like newsworthy, I guess, or formally. They haven't done anything formally in a few years, and probably due to the pandemic and other reasons. And so it was one of my goals when I started with the AMA in DC to say, hey, how can we get these members of Congress together, get this caucus back active? And obviously seems like a real tough task. I got to get into this. I got to request meeting time for these folks to say, hey, like I want to do something with the caucus, and what would your boss like to do? Where can we get on their schedule? Because they're pulled in 1,000 different directions. And thankfully, when I reached out to Mr. Wahlberg's office, he was like, I am so grateful that someone has asked to do this, because I've been wanting to do it forever. And it was just immediately, whatever you need, whatever you want to do, if you think it's a great idea, my staff's here to help in any way. And so since then, we've done 2 Ride to Work events in DC. We've hosted a Welcome to Congress event where we had members of the caucus who are riders and the new members who are elected who are riders come and say, hey, this is a group to join if you're interested in motorcycles. And it's things from access to public lands, the right to repair, autonomous vehicles, a lot of that technology that's being developed and being implemented without necessarily congressional oversight, or technology outpaces the laws so fast.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have to be aware of, and it's good when you have that group going, hey, automatic emergency braking, NHTSA said in their data, their rulemaking, that the data doesn't show how it would respond to motorcycles. Like, maybe let's not make that a mandatory technology until we can prove it. So
yeah, let's think about that for a second.
It's much easier to get that message out there to the people who matter when it's not just me. It's these 30 members of Congress and all these other groups who come together as part of, since the caucus is a little re-energized, all of a sudden you have other motorcycle advocacy groups, OEMs, all going, oh, well, yeah, we'd love to come. We'd love to be part of the discussion. Let's all get together. And I told everyone sort of, a rising tide lifts all ships. If we can work together as motorcyclists on 80% of the issues, let's work together on the 80%. And on the 20% where we might disagree, let's disagree and give everybody a heads up and try to stay out of each other's way. And that's kind of how DC works. And it's been going really well for the last 2 years. We've done a lot of great things.
Nice. And it's probably cool to see the people that you serve, like all here at VMD, like enjoying it, and really just loving all kinds of motorcycles.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those jobs where, we're a membership organization. So you're serving these members, and you kind of are aware of that. But you wake up every day. You're in DC. It's 100% humidity and it's 110 degrees, and you're wearing a suit and you're walking around, and maybe you're not. Maybe the issue of the day is not the most interesting.
Sure.
Like, man. And then you come to events like this. You're like, these are our constituents. These are who we are working for. And like, these people are just like me. We have the same interest. And it really re-energizes you to get back to work for the AMA and the interests of motorcyclists.
What would you say your favorite part of VMD is?
Wow, that's a hard question, I think. It's funny. People have asked me that question before. I think that it depends on where I am. If you ask me when I'm over in the swap meet, I'm probably going to say, God, this is my favorite. I love this here. This is great.
Sure.
One of the things I really like, I think is a great opportunity for people, is the Lap for History that we do. That's an extra little fundraiser we do for the museum. And it gives people the opportunity to get on the track with their own bike. We lead them around in a pace car, and they get to do 2 or 3 laps around the track. And we do that each day, so people can come do it 3 times if they want to. I enjoy that. I typically drive the pace car for the event, which has been pretty cool. And that's one of the more enjoyable things. The bike show is great. I several years ago had a bike that I showed in the bike show that I had built, a BMW that I've since put a sidecar on. So I've done a lot of stuff with that, but it's, again, part of the vintage culture,
Yeah, I don't know if you saw in this year's bike show the blue light special. Did you catch that guy?
Yeah.
That I couldn't get over that. I thought that was hilarious.
How's it going, sir?
Good.
Can I talk to you real quick?
Sure.
I just want to ask about this.
The blue light special?
The blue lights. That's what I was hoping it was called, man.
Top of the thing.
Can you tell me a little bit about it real quick?
Sure. The cart has been chopped to 8 inches.
Okay.
It's got a imitation caster to look like a big giant shopping cart wheel. Of course, it's got the solar blue light. The rear brake is off a Harley Davidson lowrider. A lot of the mounts are Harley-Davidson off my Harley-Davidson for my sidecar. The wheelie bar was originally off a Harley dragster.
Wow.
It's got the world's first Predator V-twin engine in it.
So where did you get this mini bike from? Have you had it for a long time?
No, I bought the mini bike at off of Facebook 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I was going to call it the Chopper Shopper, and my wife wouldn't let me repaint it. She liked the color. And while I was doing the build, I realized that it was a Kmart color, and I came up with the idea of calling it the Kmart Special, and then I realized it should be the Blue Light Special.
It's got to be the Blue Light
Got
Special.
to be the Blue Light Special, so.
Yeah, and you're in competition here, right, for the bike show?
Yeah. Not the competition section, but the custom, so American custom. So this thing, other than the engine itself, the core of the engine, everything else is American made. It's a 1972 Sears Roper mini bike, and everything else is just parts from every other American makes. But I think the only thing that's actually non-American is the guts of the engine itself. So
Super cool, man. I think it's unique. And what's your name?
James.
James, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Kind of to wrap it all up, would you go back to Vintage Days?
Definitely. And I mean, going back the second time, like I have an RV that is excessively large in scale. It's only 30 feet long, but it's built out of a semi truck.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it is just big. It's a cab over. You sit 8 foot in the air with your, like, the bottom of the windshield is 6 feet in the air, I guess.
Wow. Okay.
It's big. And I think about trying to find a home for that in the camping. Like I would probably go with a slightly smaller camping setup somehow.
Sure.
And then an empty trailer on my way there so I could come back with more bikes. But I would still definitely take my Trail 90 and anyone who's thinking of going, grab the smallest possible bike you can.
Yeah,
That's
good call.
My biggest advice is, like, find a mini bike, fall in love with it. I don't care if it's a TTR or a Trail or a Monkey or whatever. Like, the smaller bike you can find, the better. But bring a bike and have fun. Like, just be ready to be blown away.
So by now, you're probably itching to go to VMD 2026. And if you are, what can we see next year?
We've got a lot of things in the works that we're not ready to announce yet.
Too soon.
Yeah, VMD will be July 24th through 26th, which is roughly the same week that we were in this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think stay tuned because we've got a couple of announcements coming out. I think that we're excited to have some other elements there that will be good, and ancillary elements. I think that'll be interesting to people. So stay tuned.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But if you want to get involved in the AMA before that in any capacity, our man Zach's got you covered.
We have a grassroots inbox for the Government Relations Department. If you ever need anything from us, the AMA is happy to help. It's grassroots at ama-cycle.org.
Big thanks to the AMA for having us out to come check out VMD for ourselves. Would highly recommend it if you ever get a chance to go. It's got to be one of those bucket list shows. Big thanks to Fish, Rob Dingman, Zach Farmer, and the Blue Light Special guy for talking to us. We can't wait to see you at VMD 2026. Thanks for listening to Driven to Ride. Interact with us and check out full unedited conversations, photos, interviews, video interviews, plus other goodies on YouTube or Instagram at Driven to Ride Podcast. Or you can check us out at driventoridepodcast.com. And make sure you leave us a rating and review from wherever you get your podcasts, too. If you have an idea for an episode or a guest, or you want to invite us out on an adventure, email us, hello@driventoridepodcast.com. Driven to Ride is wholly owned by Flint Rock LLC, made possible with help from Matthew Miles, and written, hosted, and produced by me, Mark Long. We'll see you out there.